city of Umudike, there lived a very rich man named Chief Obinna Okafor. He had many cars, big houses, and lots of workers. People respected him because he was powerful and rich. But deep inside, Chief Obinna had a secret. Before he became rich, Obinna was a poor boy from a small village called Umuoba. His father, Pa Nnaji, was a simple farmer. Pa Nnaji was not rich, but he was wise and always taught Obinna to be kind, humble, and respectful. When Obinna grew up, he left the village to find a better life. He worked hard, became rich, and forgot about his father's lessons. He did not visit his father often, and their relationship grew cold. But Pa Nnaji never stopped thinking about his son. One day, Obinna got married to a beautiful woman named Adora. She had smooth skin and bright eyes. Everyone admired her beauty. But Pa Nnaji felt something was wrong. He didn't trust Adora, even though he couldn't explain why. Pa Nnaji wanted to know Adora's true character. He thought, if I come as Obinna's father, she will pretend to be nice. But what if I come as a poor man? So Pa Nnaji made a plan. He left his village and traveled to the city. When he reached Obinna's big mansion, he did not go as a rich man's father. He went as an old gatekeeper looking for work. Pa Nnaji wore old clothes and carried a small bag. He introduced himself to the housekeeper as Pa Nnaji, the new gatekeeper. No one knew he was Chief Obinna's father. They thought he was just an old poor man. Pa Nnaji watched everything quietly. He wanted to see how Adora would treat him now that she didn't know who he really was. But Pa Nnaji didn't know that this plan would reveal more than just Adora's heart. He was about to uncover secrets that could destroy his son's life. The test had begun. Pa Nnaji started his first day as the gatekeeper. He stood by the large black gate of his son's mansion, wearing old clothes and dusty sandals. The sun was hot, and sweat rolled down his wrinkled face. But he didn't mind. This was all part of his plan. The mansion was very big, with shiny floors, tall glass windows, and beautiful flowers everywhere. Expensive cars were parked in the compound, and rich people often visited. But Pa Nnaji didn't care about the wealth. He only wanted to see the true heart of Adora, his son's wife. Adora stepped out of the house that morning, dressed in a fine clothes and wearing gold jewelries. She looked at Pa Nnaji with cold eyes and asked sharply, "Who are you?" "I am the new gatekeeper, madam," Pa Nnaji replied humbly, bowing slightly. Adora frowned. "You look too old for this job. I hope you won't be lazy." Without waiting for an answer, she walked past him, her high heel clicking on the ties. Pa Nnaji felt a sting in his heart, but he said nothing. He smiled quietly, knowing this was just the beginning. The other workers in the house treated Pa Nnaji differently. Some were kind, offering him water and chatting with him. Others ignored him because he looked poor. But Pa Nnaji paid attention to everything, especially how Adora treated people she thought were beneath her. Days passed, and Pa Nnaji noticed that Adora was always harsh with the housemates. She shouted at them, insulted them, and never said thank you. But when rich guests came around, she smiled sweetly, pretending to be kind and polite. Pa Nnaji thought, a person's true character is shown by how they treat those who cannot do anything for them. One day, While Pa Nnaji was sweeping near the gate, he overheard Adora on the phone call. She was speaking in a low voice, but Pa Nnaji could hear her clearly. "Yes, I know he's rich," she said. "That's why I married him. I can't stand him, but his money makes it worth it. Don't worry, once I get what I want, I will be done with him." Pa Nnaji's heart sank. So this is who she truly is, he thought. But he stayed calm. The test was not over yet. Pa Nnaji decided to stay longer to learn more about Adora's secrets. He knew something bigger was hiding beneath her beauty and sweet smiles. The old man had started a journey that would soon uncover dangerous truths that could destroy everything Obinna had worked for. Pa Nnaji continued working as a gatekeeper. Every day, he watched Adora closely. She treated him like he didn't exist, shouting at him when she was angry and ignoring him when she was in a good mood. But Pa Nnaji remained calm, sweeping the compound and opening the gate with a smile. One evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Pa Nnaji stayed awake. The moon was bright, casting shadows across the mansion. As he sat quietly near the gate, he saw Adora sneaking out of the house. She was wearing a long black dress with a scarf covering her head. She looked around carefully to make sure no one was watching, but Pa Nnaji saw her. She tiptoed across the compound and disappeared behind a tall wall near the garden. Pa Nnaji's heart beat fast. Where is she going at this hour? He wondered. The next day, when Adora left for the market, Pa Nnaji decided to investigate. He walked to the garden and found something strange. A small door hidden behind thick flowers and vine. The door was old and dusty, but there were fresh prints on the ground. Pa Nnaji looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then he slowly pushed the door open. It cracked loudly, but he didn't stop. Inside, there was a dark, narrow staircase leading underground. His heart pounded, but curiosity pushed him forward. He climbed down carefully, using a small flashlight he always carried. The air was cold and smelled damp. As he reached the bottom, he saw something that made him freeze. There were boxes filled with money, gold jewelries, and important documents. But that wasn't the shocking part. On the wall, there were pictures of Chief Obinna with red marks drawn over his face. There were also strange symbols written in chalk, like signs from a ritual. Pa Nnaji's hand trembled. What is this? What is Adora hiding? He quickly left the hidden room, closed the door, and covered it with the flowers again. He sat quietly near the gate, his mind racing. That evening, Adora returned home, smiling sweetly at his husband, Obinna, as if nothing was wrong. But Pa Nnaji now knew there was a dark secret hidden behind that smile. I must find out the truth, he thought. But Pa Nnaji had no idea that the more he dug, the more dangerous things would become. Not just for him, but for his son as well. Pa Nnaji couldn't sleep that night. The images from the hidden room kept flashing in his mind. Boxes of money, strange symbols, and Obinna's picture marked with red lines. He stared at the dark ceiling of the small gatehouse, wondering what Adora was planning. Is she trying to harm my son? He thought, his heart heavy with fear. The next morning, Pa Nnaji watched Adora closely. She acted like everything was normal, laughing with Obinna and pretending to be the perfect wife. But Pa Nnaji saw through her smile. It was fake. Behind those pretty eyes was a secret as dark as the hidden room. Later that day, when Obinna left for work, Pa Nnaji decided to speak to one of the housemaids, Amaka. She was a young girl with kind eyes who always greeted Pa Nnaji politely. Amaka, he whispered, I need to ask you something, but you must not tell anyone. Amaka looked around nervously and nodded. Yes, Baba, what is it? Pa Nnaji leaned closer. Have you ever seen Madame Adora doing anything strange? Like going to places in the house she shouldn't? Amaka hesitated, fear flashing in her eyes. She lowered her voice. Yes, Baba. Sometimes at night, I hear her sneaking out of her room. I saw her going to the garden once, but when she saw me, she warned me never to follow her. She was very angry. Pa Nnaji's heart raced. So it is true. Did you see what she was doing there? He asked. Amaka shook her head. No, Baba. But I heard her talking to someone. I don't know who. Her voice sounded differently, like she was chanting. Pa Nnaji felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Chanting? That sounded like something spiritual, something dangerous. Thank you, Amaka, he said softly. Don't tell anyone about this. It's very important. That night, Pa Nnaji stayed awake again, hiding near the garden. The moon was bright, casting long shadows. Hours passed, and just when he was about to give up, he saw her. Adora was sneaking out, just like before. But this time, she wasn't alone. A tall, dark figure followed her, wearing a black robe with a hood covering his face. Pa Nnaji's heart pounded like a drum. They went through the hidden door. Pa Nnaji crept closer, his old heart beating fast. He listened carefully, pressing his ears against the wall. Inside, he heard Adora's voice. Obinna is almost fully under my control. Soon, everything he owns will be mine. The man replied, his voice deep and rough. Be careful. The old man at the gate watches too. He is not ordinary. Pa Nnaji froze. They are talking about me. Fear gripped him, but he didn't move. He had to hear more. Adora laughed softly. He's just an old fool. What can he do? Pa Nnaji clinched his fist. They think I am weak, but they will soon learn. The next day, Pa Nnaji knew he had to act fast. His son's life was in danger, and the enemy was inside the house. The gatekeeper's test has turned into a fight for survival. Pa Nnaji woke up early the next morning, his heart heavy with fear and anger. The words he had heard the night before echoed in his mind. Obinna is almost fully under my control. He watched his son, Obinna, sitting at the breakfast table, laughing with Adora, completely unaware of the danger beside him. Adora smiled sweetly, feeding Obinna pieces of fruit, pretending to be the perfect wife. But Pa Nnaji knew the truth behind her marks. I must warn my son, he thought. But how? If he told Obinna the truth, would his son believe him? After all, to Obinna, he was just an old gatekeeper. Even worse, Adora might twist the story and make Obinna think Pa Nnaji was crazy. Pa Nnaji decided to start slowly. He waited until Adora left the house to visit her friend. Then he walked into the compound, pretending to fix something near Obinna's car. When Obinna came outside to make a phone call, Pa Nnaji approached him carefully. "Sir," he said politely, bowing his head like a humble worker. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" Obinna looked surprised. He had barely noticed the old gateman before. "What is it, old man? Make it quick. I am busy." Pa Nnaji swallowed his pride. "Sir, I have noticed some strange things in this house. I believe your life might be in danger." Obinna frowned. "What are you talking about?" Pa Nnaji lowered his voice. "It's about Madam Adora. She's not who you think she is." Obinna's face darkened. He took a step closer, his eyes sharp. "Be careful with your words, old man. That's my wife you're talking about." Pa Nnaji sighed. "He doesn't believe me." "I understand, sir," he said softly. "But please, watch her closely. Not everything is as it seems." Obinna shook his head, clearly annoyed. "Go back to your work. Don't ever speak of my wife again." Pa Nnaji walked away slowly, his heart sinking. He is blind to the truth. Later that evening, Adora returned home, smiled at Obinna, kissed his cheek, and acted like the perfect wife. But when her eyes met Pa Nnaji's, he saw something dark flicker in them, like she knew he had tried to warn her husband. That night, Pa Nnaji found a small piece of paper slipped under the door of his gate. He opened it and read the words written in shaky handwriting. "Old man, stop digging or you will regret it." Pa Nnaji's hand trembled. "They knew I am watching." But he wasn't afraid. Instead, he grew more determined. "If I don't stop her, no one will." The battle had just begun. Pa Nnaji stared at the threatening note. His hands trembled slightly. Those words were clear. "Old man, stop digging or you will regret it." But Pa Nnaji was not a man who gave up easily. He had faced the hardship of poverty, the pain of separation from his son, and the struggle of old age. This was just another battle, a battle for his son's life. The next morning, he pretended nothing was wrong. He swept the compound as usual, opened the gates for visitors, and greeted them with a smile. But inside, his mind was racing. "I can't fight Adora alone. I need help." Pa Nnaji decided to speak with Amaka again.